There's an important type of string that is called a formatted string, or F string for short. And what that string does is helps you format output. So here are a few variables that are initialized, and something's calculated and are ready to print it. And here's how we've been printing it up until now. We've been putting some strings with some commas and stringing together essentially a sentence in bits and pieces. The trouble with this is that, first of all, we don't have the control that we want. There's an extra space. It puts a space in between everything that's with commas, which I don't want, so there's a space there and a space there. And it's also just a pain to write all these different values, or write this print statement like this. So here's an F string. A formatted string starts with the letter F and then has the quotes as usual. So this is a string which is going to be formatted. Any place where you want to replace, you just write the sentence, okay? But right here at this point, I want to insert the amount into this sentence. And so I put curly brackets and type the name of the variable. And it'll substitute that number in there, and it'll continue the sentence. So every place where you see these brackets, you will see, and here's even a little expression. I take the rate times 100 to write the rate as a percent. So let's run that. And let me make it so you can see the whole output. So this does what the other thing did, but it took care of at least one of the problems, is that it got rid of these extra spaces. And I think it's easier to see how this goes. It's easier to read. But there's a lot more power to it than that. Like, for example, you aren't stuck with just having all these decimal places. You can format a value, and I'm going to make this is a decimal format with 2 decimal places, and it's a floating point number. So I'm going to type that and see what happens here. It formatted this instead of having all the decimal places. Let's do the same thing. Oh, actually for rate, there's something even nicer. I want to format this. I don't even need to write my own percent because there's a format string. So whenever you want to format something, you put a colon after the variable. And then I still want 2 decimal places, but I want this to be a percent. There it is. Let's just make it 1 decimal place. Okay, now this looks nice. There are a few other things. Hey, look, this is a large number. Let's make it put a comma in between the 25,000 and the rest of the number. So let's put a comma in there. So these strings are a bit hard to remember how to do. And I usually mainly use a few of them, like the rounding. Like you notice I did not have to round the amount at all. It rounds it how it is shown, but I still have the full precision of the amount. So there's only a few things that I really use a lot, and this 0.2f is something that I use quite a bit. Sometimes I use a comma as well. In addition to formatting numbers, this is also useful for formatting numbers and text for displaying things in a table. Let me just run this so you can see what this looks like. This will go in a loop 4 times. And look what it'll do is it'll print I, which will be 0, 1, 2, 3. And this 4 means that it's going to pad it out so that it fills 4 spaces. Then it'll put this score up here. And then it'll do 10 to the I. So it'll do 10 to the 0, which is 1, 10, 100, and so forth. This time it'll pad it out 8 places, and this will be represented with a comma, and D is an integer. So actually I have a little mistake here because I'm using a later version of Python than you are. So in the newer version, you're allowed to use the same quotes. Let me just run this again. So there we go. So there's our 4 characters with 0 right justified. our line. And then look at how neat this looks compared to other ways of just print. If I just printed this out, this wouldn't be right justified like this. This next one, you can do the same thing, right, left, and center justify text. Here it's going to print an asterisk. Well, it's going from 1 to 7. It's going to print an asterisk, and it's going to do that 1 time, then 3 times, then 5 times, and 7 times, because it's skipping by 2. And this, once again, you put a colon to format something, and this means it's going to be center justified. If you want it right justified, it looks like that, but center justified is the caret, and it's going to be center justified in 10 spaces. And so this gave us the center justified, this little tree. You can format numbers. You can format numbers to be in binary. Just put a B there, or hexadecimal, put an X there, and it'll display your number in binary or hexadecimal. You can use scientific notation and just put a capital E there, and it'll put a capital E there. I think a lowercase e just makes it a lowercase e in your exponent, is your exponential equation. Oh, by the way, Python does let you put underscores in your numbers, so you don't have to look at something as ugly as that. That's hard to read. So Python lets you put an underscore there as a way to separate digits and digit grouping. And the last nifty little thing is if you're debugging, this is why you print I end up printing variables a lot just to see if I understand what's going on. I print the variable to debug my code. And there's a nifty little thing that in the brackets, the curly brackets, you put the name of the variable you want to see. And if you put an equal sign, oh, I got rid of my principal stuff. Hold on a second. There, I put it back in. So when you put principal equals, it types the word principal. It writes the name of the variable and then tells you what it's equal to. So this is a quick way to print out your variables and have it labeled so you don't get confused as to which variable is which. Okay, there are a couple old ways, which I do not want you to use in this course at all. There are old ways to format strings in Python. The only reason I'm showing this to you is because you might see this on code online. Don't do that in this class. You might see these little modulo operators or percent signs. That's a really old way. That's from the Python 2 even. And you also see a string operator. This is a format string operator which will throw the amount in the first one, years in the second one, and rate in the last one. But it's much harder to kind of go back here and figure out what should be going in which bracket. So I don't want you to use that one either. So I'm even going to erase these so you can't even see that anymore. Please just use the formatted string. Finally, I don't expect you to memorize all these things. I just kind of want to show you what's possible so you know what's out there. Feel free to look it up anytime you need to use it.